maps. Usually they have like speakers and things like that, programs they do that's particular to the individual class. Maybe that's what, no worries. So before we get crack-a-lacking, I need to give you guys your maps. Because we have a new set of maps. Hooray! Pass and grab one. No, actually not this time. So, South Central. You're going to do it again! Might be the same map. Is it really? That probably wouldn't surprise me. So it's honestly literally the same map. That'd be funny. It's not exactly the same, but pretty much. Although you guys are always studying the Spanish-speaking portion, but we're studying all of it. Brazil is mostly also Paraguay and Uruguay. What? Next Monday. I always have a week. And that's the only homework you have, so you know. Do a little bit this time, a little bit that time, no big deal.
But is it one paper or two?
One. Just one. Thank you. These are extras in case anybody like, screws up, loses it, read it, Alright, so next week. By the way, if you guys haven't done it yet, don't forget you have 2 BBC articles due tonight from last week. There's only one, maybe it's only one. Probably one. Well, last time I checked this morning, there was only 13 people did it, so, It's probably just one,
I think
my
it's
math was off.
number 2, because wasn't there one before?
Maybe.
And it's like number 2.
That might be it. Just double check you did it, as long as short of it. If you haven't, you have until midnight. If you have, it's easy. Take a look.
It sounds like intimidating.
Yeah. It explodes. Anyway, I'm gonna do it right now. Right now. All right, so Latin America is, of course, kind of a misnomer because it gets its word from Roman. The Roman language is Latin, and saying that the people of Latin America are Latino. They speak Latin. Is that true? No. In fact, only about a third of the peoples we think of as being from Latin America are even descended from Europeans. Another third are represented by folks from Africa. Another third are folks that are Native American. In fact, if you really want to break it down, we could even go farther than that. There's a significant number of folks from East Asia living in South America. But none of those are really Latinos, so that's no good. Another term that gets thrown around to describe people from this region are Hispanic. But that's not right either, because what does Hispanic mean? Yeah, from Spain, España. That's not true either. So this begs the question, who are these people? Who's their daddy and what did they do? And, well, that's not exactly the question at all. But we're going to find out some things about it. That's what we do in geography. We learn stuff. So what are we talking about? Well, geographically speaking, we are talking about South, Central, and Caribbean of America. Now, we're also thrown in Mexico, even though technically we could have thrown them with North America, but we're looking at kind of the idea of region here, so not just a matter of physical geography. What is the biggest landmass, biggest thing in South America? What is that? Landmass. Bit of land. Not the mountains, no. Yeah. Biggest landmass there, yes. And that's, although you're on the right track, because that's the country with what's there. Yeah. The Amazon Basin is the biggest landmass, biggest thing of land that's there, and which is in Brazil, mostly. Of course, not only is the basin, but what else grows there? The Amazon rainforest, sure. And of course, the longest river, with the exception of the Nile. The Amazon, yeah. So basically, I was thinking it might be the third. It might be shooting myself in the foot with that. No, okay. But we also have this big old set of mountains over here in the western mountains. What mountain range is that in the west? The Andes, yes indeed, which connects up to the Sierra Madre Oriental all the way up to the Rockies. So big area of tectonic activity. Yes. I'm sure that's probably what they're referencing, yes, but I doubt strongly that they're actually from the mountains. Although, you guys do know that chocolate originates from Latin America, yes? Originally, grain made by the Aztec, or the Mexica, as they call themselves, chocolate. What? Chocolate. That was the name of the drink, chocolate, yes. And basically, it was sort of, kind of, not really kind of similar to hot chocolate, but it's made totally differently. Like one thing, it's often spiced with pepper. Because pepper and chocolate go really well together. To give you weird looks, trust me, it does. And things like corn and stuff like that, but otherwise it was very tasty, but bitter by comparison. That's why I had to have the flavoring. So it's basically, if you've ever had raw sugar, it basically tastes, raw chocolate, it basically tastes like coffee grounds. It's really super bitter. But if you flavor it, you can make all kinds of delicious things. But then again, America, or basically went to the Europeans, they started mixing and tinkering and all that sort of stuff, and came up with what we think of as chocolate, which of course is used in all kinds of delicious things. Sorry, bro. But anyway, the thing is South America is a very, very big place. When you add in the rest of Latin America, basically we're talking around 1/5 of all land on Earth. So it's not exactly a small place. And this area is heavily differentiated by physical landmarks, by physical things. The Andes act as a gigantic barrier between the sea and the interior, affecting climate through the rain shadow effect. You might remember that, we talked about it about 2 weeks ago, where a mountain shields the interior by blocking moisture coming off of the sea, and so it creates one half of the mountain that's barren and green, and the other half which is pretty much desert. So that kind of represents one aspect of the way physical geography influences climate. We also have the influence of elevation. You guys know, how does elevation influence climate? Yeah.
The higher up you get in the air, it gives you the whole.
Sure. And that's definitely a big deal now, because we're in the mountains, it's very chilly up there. But there's other kind of more interesting ways that it affects temperature. For instance, have you guys ever opened up or looked at the inside of a box with Easy Mac and it says cooking directions? If you are so many degrees above sea level, or so many feet above sea level, you use these cooking directions. If you're below sea level, then use these other cooking directions. You ever noticed that before?
Yeah.
Why? It's not because it's colder outside, is it? Because of pressure, yeah. Pressure is awesome because it influences so many things. For instance, have you guys ever cooked with a pressure cooker? Yeah. It uses pressure in order to lower the boiling point of water, so things cook faster in it. How neat is that? You know? I think it's very neat, because then you can make fried chicken a lot faster. That's how the Miracle did it. True story, bro. You can also pressure can things, preserve them. You can even cook delicious ribs in a much faster time, which is important if you're in a hurry and need your ribs back in business. Don't laugh, it's true. Sometimes you've got a rib back. which I still really want to call Miss Max baby riblet, but I don't think that would be appropriate necessarily. So I'm not gonna do that. Yeah.
My friend said that when her dog died, she was get a teacup pig, and I thought they should do bacon.
Bacon knife. The funny thing about teacup animals, like people, I hear about this all the time, they don't exist. It's just a baby animal, that's all it is. Genetically, they do tend to try to look for smaller animals, but it's still a bigger animal. People are like, oh, it's so cute, so oh, it's getting bigger, let's throw it away. It's like, don't do that, that's rude. Just get a bigger teacup, yeah. Make like a Stein pig or something. I don't know.
Then when you pretty much take them to the teacups at Disney World.
There you go, you see? The teacups at Disney World, with the spinning things. You see a pig, like, oh my god, it's so big. You'll be alright. This is why my wife and I get chickens. We're not naming them. Except I kind of want to give them names like prisoner names, but that's a little bit morbid. So probably just name one like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There you go. That's what their purpose is. They're not pets, they're livestock. They end up in a pond. Delicious. Or skillet. Skillet's a good name. Because it's where it's going to end up. Is that right?
Or the other one to kill. Or
What?
the smoker, you gotta be the one to
Probably.
kill. Chop off the
No, there's an easier way to do it. There are worse nicknames I can call than chicken killer. Delicious. Anyway. Yeah.
Why is the duck song purple?
Aha! You recognize that. This is she who got it. It's my daughter loves that song now, but she only knows the word "got me grapes" and "bum bum bum" the very next night. So she just like get walking around, like start spinning in a circle, going bum bum bum. Very next day, hey, got me grapes? Anyway, so you get the statistics here. One thing we have to notice is, historically speaking, this area is pretty freaking diverse. You got peoples from all over the world settling in this area. Now, for one thing, there are ethnic groups. Hello. Christy Atkinson. Is this person in this class? Ice. Sorry. It's my TV show. That's just the way the guy delivers that line. It's like, whoa, dude. Because he's also like got these buggy eyes. Thank you. Anyways, so the whole idea of different ethnic groups stems from the idea of movement, you know, because even beginning, the first people settled here by immigrating across the very land bridge. As they settled these various areas, they developed into unique cultures. From there on, with the introduction of Europeans, you had the forced migration of African Americans to the area through the transatlantic slave trade. You know, mostly you think about the transatlantic slave trade being a thing about the American South, like the United States. Really, that's not really true. For the most part, Africans were being channeled into the Caribbean and South America, where they introduced their own cultural elements, which developed independently, bringing with them all manner of different customs that forever changed the cultural climate of this region. So again, we see a vast diversity of peoples, but not just people, mind you, also animals. Consider this. Let me kind of break some down with you guys. I presume you guys have studied evolution, yes? Okay. Sometimes people tend to think of it as being like, mutation, like I would become a mutant in some of the X-Men, but it's not evolution at all. What it is basically the theory that the reason animals are the way they are in a given climate is because they have an advantage to better suit that climate. It's no different than saying, why aren't there birds of paradise in Antarctica? Well, it's a bit cold there. Or to put it in another perspective, why is it that there's so few animals in the extreme outer parts of the globe, such as the Arctic and the Antarctic, but there's wonderful diversity in, say, the Amazon rainforest? And the idea has to do with pressures. things acting on animals to try to drive them into extinction. I guess this is a somewhat negative view of the world, that basically it's trying to kill you, but considering all the things that go into survival, it's not too far-fetched. Considering the need to get food and shelter and resources and things like that, means that animals that can get those that others cannot will live whenever things are really bad. So, for instance, why do giraffes have really tall necks? Because they basically all died off unless they had those long necks, which was just a genetic dysfunction. So the ones that had slightly taller necks had a little bit better advantage, until eventually they got so long that basically their heart couldn't support and they died. Again, dealing with this idea of not really. Adaptation is a bad word, because now the animals decide, oh, this is hard, I'm going to change and become a mutant. It's rather the ones that have the advantage to survive. Now, why that matters is if you look at the Amazon rainforest, it is the most biodiverse place on Earth except for the oceans, because there are much fewer of these pressures. Food is much more abundant there because of the constant sunlight. Remember, all energy comes from the sun. So because it receives more than its fair share, there's more things there for animals to eat, and thus have to spend less time trying to scrounge a living, and can spend more time in certain other activities, which I won't go into. Playing Scrabble. Not really playing Scrabble, get the idea. And in addition, because there are fewer predators, that they can survive in a better case. Now, there are still predators, don't get me wrong, there's actually quite a few predators. But consider this, which animal on this planet is the apex predator? Number one best animal in the world can kill anything at once. Human beings, absolutely. We can hunt and eat anything. True story. You guys know Darwin, the guy who came up with the theory of evolution? Little known fact, not only was he studying animals and taking samples, he also ate them. He ate a sample of every animal he came encounter. Yeah, well, I don't really know if he ran into raccoons in this voyage, but pretty much everything. Yeah, and besides, apparently raccoons are delicious, from what I understand.
My aunt's cousin says her name, but I would take his word.
I'm about to say, I don't know about that. That's, you know, to each their. I will say that squirrel's quite tasty. In fact, squirrel wings taste just like chicken wings, except there's extra bone, because it's the story. Yeah.
One time I was like, there was a bunny, and I was like, oh, it's too funny. My grandpa was like, you cook it up and eat it, put it in your soup, it's good.
It's good eating everything. Yeah, that's how my wife refers to them. Is like she'll see rat bunnies hopping through her. It's like, that one's a fryer. That one would be good in the pot, you know, things like that.
My mom hates animals, but we had these bunnies in our shed, and she loved them. And then she got really, really, really mad at our neighbor because she shot them.
Like you do. Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes you gotta eat.
So now she
bunnies.
just wants to pee whenever she sees them.
Yeah, bunnies are rats. I hate to say it. They're rats. Hey, my wife had a pet rat too. Doesn't mean that, you know, they're not what they are. Yeah. Lab rat. They're actually really smart. But, you know. Sure. And some people have that policy. I don't like
My
that.
sister has her.
Each their own. Anyways, but this diversity is one of the more interesting things, I think, about the natural history, the natural climate, and basically with the starting over. It's pretty cool stuff. Speech impediment coming out. Anyways, so we'll get to that a little bit later. But suffice it to say, this also means the diversity of humans. Further diversity can be found in the physical geography, from the highlands to the plains to the tropic regions. Now, as far as natural resources are concerned, the big ones in this area are, of course, gold, silver, and also lumber. And probably the biggest thing that we often don't really think about is farmland. For instance, one of the big deals with South America is the herding of cattle. You guys know what a cowboy is, I presume, yes? What is their purpose? What is their job? Or cows, yeah. Which is funny because most of the time we see cowboys is either A, in a gunslinger movie, or B, is a rodeo, which neither is actually what cowboys are supposed to do. But that's what we think of them as. We think of the old cowboy days of the 1800s. Well, guys, they still exist. There are still herders of cows out there, and they still do their job pretty much the same way they have for a couple hundred years. The vaqueros, for instance, are still doing this in South America, and lots of good meat comes from it. Furthermore, the growing of crops, especially tropical fruits, sugar, things like that, as well as cocoa, is still a major part of the industry of this region of the world. Now, the problem, however, is that what happens in the rainforest? I mean, what does it do? Seriously, we were in the little Yucatan Peninsula the other time. They were going, this tour guide's like, it's raining, rainforest. I thought that was hilarious for some reason. It's like, well, what did you guys expect? It's raining in the rainforest. And what happens whenever, it's not worry about it. And what happens when it continuously rains is a lot of the nutrients in the soil washes away. It's a process called leaching. Okay? It's like a leach. Now, if you are a farmer in South America and you need farmlands, how do you do it? Well, traditionally, the Indians would take vast swathes of land and chop down all the trees and set them on fire. Sounds like fun to me. Then they would spread this ash around, mix it up in the soil, and you've got nice, fertile land, fertile soil from all that lovely ash. But leaching will set in and ruin that land in time. So then, what do you do? Do it again and move around. This is why farming is the #1 leading cause of deforestation in South America. The other alternative, by the way, is to renew the land using fertilizers. The problem with fertilizers, though, is they are toxic. Most fertilizers, and really anything that's good for a plant, is usually not good for a human or animal to drink. So this is where there's a big problem. And really, the United States is really careful about fertilizer uses. I mean, I know there's this belief identifying where a lot of people are like, we just don't care and spray whatever you want, but that's not true. If you know farmers, that's simply not true. You have regulations about what you can and cannot use. Now, you could argue that it's not safe, but whatever, that's semantics. In South America, a lot of cases, they don't care, or they don't regulate as heavily. So that means you have a lot more toxic chemicals being introduced into the water cycle, and that leads to all kinds of problems. So this is an issue that they're going to be dealing with today as, because we can increase those regulations, but that ups the cost to farmers to produce, which really doesn't affect the massive, large farmers, the latifundias, but it does affect the minifundias, the family-owned farms, the littler farms that can't compete. Then they go out of business, and then causes all kinds of other problems. So it's a constant issue of ethics and feasibility, if that makes any sense. Because, ethically, there's all kinds of things we could do, but would that work economically? And often the answer is no, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality of the world. Any older. The major islands of the Caribbean include 3 different regions. Now, whenever you guys do your maps, you'll notice that on the islands you've got this really big swath of itty-bitty islands. Those are the Lesser Antilles. You can mark them as such. If you really want to differentiate, you have Windward and Leeward Islands. Basically, are they facing or are they against the prevailing westerly winds? And let's talk winds for just a second, guys. Winds dramatically impact climates by bringing not only moisture, but also solar energy. The way winds move is by a process called convection. Convection is basically energy dissipating into areas of lesser energy. It works for electricity, it works for heat, it works for light. Now, here's how things go. With the heat coming from the sun, as it heats areas of wind or of air and water, that energy wants to dissipate. It doesn't want to stay in one place, it wants to move. As it does so, it carries with it the wind and generates wind, essentially. A good way of explaining this, have you guys ever tried thawing a turkey for Thanksgiving? What's the best way of doing it? What temperature water? Cold water, yeah. If it's too hot, the outside will rot before the rest of it's even thawed. But the bestest way is you have cold water bath and you turn on a little drip, drip, drip from your tap, because that causes the water to move, and that basically that heat from the water, because relatively it's hotter than the ice cold turkey, will penetrate into the skin of the turkey and will cause it to move, thus create a process of convection. So it's the same process. I'm sure there's a better way of explaining. I'm not a scientist, but that's more or less how it works. And that introduces solar energy throughout the world and can actually cause places to become unseasonably cold or hot. We experienced this last winter. Remember the polar vortex? That's unseasonable. That's not supposed to happen. Yes? So this is this process. Which, of course, we get to the whole issue of global warming, but we're just going to end it like this. Is it happening? Yes. Are humans influencing? Absolutely. That's irrefutable. How much are we influencing it? I don't know. Scientists don't know this. That's where the debate really lies. We know it's happening. There's no question about that. Because that's just because all that global warming is the Earth's average temperature going up every year. Yes, it has. But it's also been going on since the Ice Age. So it's been happening this entire time. The problem is how much. And this is where there's a debate about how much it is. So basically, in a nutshell, if anyone is concerned, be as green as you can. Moving on. Yes. What?
It said global warming was going down.
I didn't hear that. It's possible. I mean, I do know that it fluctuates. And, if you actually, I wish I could find this video. It's been 10 years since I saw it on the Weather Channel, but they had one of the best analyses of global warming, because these guys, they're weather scientists, it's what they deal with, and they were just looking at these averages over time and said, yeah, we know we're influencing it, but we don't know the exactitudes. Because if you think about it, we only know average temperatures going back about 200 years. That is a pittance in compared to the life of the world. So it's not really that easy for us to make these judgments. So that's why I kind of always say it's like, if you're worried about it, do the best you can, Speak out, be part of the political process. That's why it exists, But we're not going to hash out the details and have an argument about yes, no, maybe so in this class, because, it's not what we're getting into. But I just feel that we need to bring that portion up, because that is an issue we're going to have to deal with. And ultimately continue to look up that stuff. So the climates of South America are many and varied. The vast majority are tropical. As far as others, we do have a fairly diverse climate, which again, of course, creates a diverse biosphere. Which biosphere basically refers to all living things. There's more different types of life in South America, again, for that process. There's also little things like atmosphere, all the Earth's gases, and lithosphere, all the Earth's rock, and things like that. It's a way of looking at the world, winds, if you will. But ultimately, it's pretty varied, and there's two reasons for that. Okay. We are going to stop here. I know we still got about 10 minutes to go, but this is where first period ended up, and I just wanted to take some time. So basically, here's what's going to go down. Is this week, our big thing is to get the maps done. We're going to be doing notes for a significant number of it, and now that I know you guys don't have a retreat, I'm actually going to adjust what's on Edmodo. So we're going to do a couple of things. Probably watch a couple videos. That's exciting. One of which is actually one of my favorite series that Discovery did. It's called Atlas. And what they do is they look at one place in the world. In this case, they look at Brazil. and try to explain that country by interviewing and following the lives of anywhere between 6 and 12 people living in that country. And it's excellent because they give a variety of different views into life in that current era. So, you had a question?
No, sorry.
Are you ready, or do you still need to wait? Or who was going to take it?
I need to spell this.
Okay, no worries. Well, I got 10 minutes, so I'll do that. No big deal. All right, so we'll call that good. You guys working on apps? Knock yourself out. You got any questions to bring out? Oh, right.
So all the countries are really small. Can we like number a list and put numbers on it?
Totally, yeah. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I didn't think about that. That's hard.